Okay, well, good evening, everyone. I'm Carrie Sliva with the City of El Mirage Communications and Public Affairs team, and also presenting tonight is Deputy City Manager Robert Nilles. Welcome to the Bond 2023 Public Information Meeting. I'd like to remind everyone attending that the purpose of the meeting is to provide information about the bond program and the election. By law, city staff cannot advocate for a yes or no vote on the bonds or even tell you our opinions on the bond election. We're just here to provide information. Okay. In tonight's agenda, we'll cover what is a bond, background information, bond projects, financials, the election process, and question and answers with some comment cards. Comment cards have been placed on each chair. Please write your question, and we ask that you please print. If the questions are relevant to the bond election and we can provide an answer at the end of the presentation, we will. To help ensure that we comply with the statute and remain neutral, we will only take written questions tonight and no verbal questions. We have copies of the questions and answers from the last public meeting, so feel free to look through those. They're on the back table in case you might have the same question. If we don't have the answer or we're unable to answer, we will respond to your questions via email, so be sure to include that on there. City office hours are Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And again, please print especially your email address so that it's legible and then we're able to respond. We want to encourage you to visit elmirageaz.gov/bond2023. And I'll now turn it over to Deputy City Manager Robert Nilles for the next segment on what is a bond.
Good evening. Since our last meeting, we have added a brief video that is available on our city's YouTube channel. It's called What is a Bond? You are welcome to watch that at your convenience. We did not include it in this evening's presentation just because of some timing issues with the presentation. So feel free to look at that on our city's YouTube channel. For tonight, we will go into some additional detail on the topic of bonds. So GO, or sometimes called GO bonds, stands for General Obligation Bonds. Simply put, selling bonds is a way for cities to build public infrastructure now and pay for it over time. The funds may only be used for the specific purposes and projects approved by the voters. Similar to how a home mortgage works, cities use bonds to finance large construction projects such as buildings, streets, and infrastructure. GO bonds are debt, basically a loan that is repaid over time, usually from property taxes. The city sells bonds to investors to generate cash for the projects and then pays the investors back with interest over a period of years. The payoff term on the proposed bonds will be approximately 30 years. Next, we will give you some background on the proposed bond and other past bond issues that the city has brought forward. In the last 20 years, the city of El Mirage has held 2 bond elections, one in 2011 and one in 2005. The most recent bond in 2011 paid for the construction of the police station and the recreation facility that houses the YMCA. In formulating recommendations for the 2023 special bond election, the City Council relied on a number of factors. According to the last census in 2020, El Mirage's population totaled 35,805 and grew 12.6% since the 2010 census, adding an estimated 4,008 people. Growth figures were taken into consideration in the areas of residential, commercial, and industrial. External studies were conducted by the city that looked at the conditions and capacities of existing facilities. Cities utilize the expertise of professional planners in order to properly calculate street, facility, and service impacts on the community. A facilities needs study and a courthouse master plan are 2 of the plans that were utilized in determining the 2023 bond election. In addition, the city's general plan, the city's facilities master plan, the POCO Citizens Survey, and other existing plans were used. Links to these studies can be found on the bond website at elmirageaz.gov/bond2023. Then factors were prioritized based on the benefits to the community, the impact on taxes, and the city's debt limit, the city's ability to execute projects, the city's ability in the future to fund the operations and maintenance of the new facilities, and the long-range planning for city facilities, including the capacities at those facilities. I will now turn it back over to Carrie.
Numerous council discussions have been held over the past year on current impacts on service and on long-range planning for growth and expansion of city facilities. And council work sessions were conducted to determine what items should be included. It was determined in 2022 that the earliest a bond measure could be placed on a ballot pursuant to state law would be at a special election in November of 2023 and only by mail-in ballots. Then on April 18, 2023, the City Council passed a resolution to hold a special election on November 7, 2023 for a $41.5 million bond measure. The breakdown of the proposed bond projects amounts to $21.5 million for public safety facilities and $20 million for city facilities. The projects will all be on the ballot in one question, meaning a yes vote by the voters would approve issuing debt to fund the projects, and a no vote would not. As a result of the study and prioritization process, 4 projects are proposed in the bond measure. They are a second fire station, an expansion of the existing police station, a new courthouse, and an expansion of City Hall. The number of emergency and non-emergency calls continues to increase as El Mirage grows in population. From 2002 to 2022, the number of calls has increased 142%, from 1,900 calls in 2002 to 4,600 calls in 2022. The city's current fire station, located at Thunderbird and El Mirage Road, was occupied in 2012, and the number of calls in the last 10 years has increased 48%. In particular, response times south of Cactus Road continue to remain above 4 minutes to reach an incident. In 2012 and 2018, the Insurance Services Office, or ISO, the organization that sets insurance ratings used to determine residential and commercial insurance rates for residents, completed evaluations of the city of El Mirage. The results of both ISO evaluations reflected a lack of infrastructure for fire protection in the southern area of the city. And information on how the city's ISO rating can affect individual homeowners insurance rates can be found on the fire department's website, and there is a link on the bond website as well. In 2021, the City Council commissioned a follow-up study on the operational readiness of the fire department. The Center for Public Safety Management, again, identified the need to reduce response times. Included in the proposed bond measure is a second fire station, which would be located in the southern portion of the city at approximately 17,000 square feet. It would have 4 bays to house additional fire apparatus, personnel, and equipment. Placement of this second fire station should result in decreased response times. The existing El Mirage Police Department facility was occupied in 2013, staffing 57 employees and 2 volunteers. Since then, staffing for the police department has grown to 82 employees and 3 volunteers, an increase of 45.6%. Conference rooms have been turned into storage areas, and employees are working in interview rooms and closets. The council commissioned a police operational study in 2021. The Center for Public Safety Management recommended constructing additional space for the El Mirage Police Headquarters facility by approximately 25%, or 5,000 square feet. The expansion proposed in the bond measure would accommodate the current and recommended staffing numbers, as well as secured parking. In particular, the El Mirage Police Department's Investigations Bureau space would be enlarged, and this unit handles criminal investigations, including complex homicides, violent crimes, sex crimes, crimes against children, gang investigations, and fatal collisions. To summarize, the existing police station would be expanded by approximately 5,000 square feet to include additional personnel space, additional secured parking, and a larger investigations bureau. The bond measure also includes proposed funding for a new courthouse. The current city courthouse, El Mirage City Court, is located inside a facility constructed in the early 1980s as a community center. The El Mirage City Court shared a facility with the city water department until 2001, when a fire forced co-location with other courts for the next 6 years. It has been in its current location for 16 years, which was not designed nor intended to be a courthouse. The caseload for the city court increased from 2008 to 2020, with the number of cases filed increasing by 84% from 2008 to 2020. Cases resolved increased by 163% in that time, and personnel positions increased by 53%. An external study conducted by DLR Group for the courthouse master plan in February of 2022 determined that the overall building effectiveness rating was poor. It cited inadequate amenities for personnel, technology, and the general function of the court, including ADA accessibility issues. The safety and security of the facility rated fair, as did the overall performance of the facility. In addition, a court security assessment conducted in March 2022 by the U.S. Judicial Branch Security Threat Assessment Group recommended security-related changes to address public traffic control, employee parking, and building design. Court visitors currently wait in line outside the building under a temporary trellis. The study concluded that there was no space to make adaptations to the court to work in its current building. The bond measure would include the construction of a new courthouse building to address court safety concerns, modernize the facility, and provide ADA-compliant space to address all court matters. The proposed court facility would be built to eliminate the need for customers to wait outside and allow the implementation of contemporary technology to serve the community. The proposed 18,000 square foot facility would be near the proposed new fire station in the southern portion of the city, which allows for closer proximity to other city departments, including police and administrative services. The fourth proposed project in the bond measure is the expansion of City Hall. The current City Hall at 10,000 North El Mirage Road was occupied in 2016 with 30 employees. There are currently 40 employees. The 2022 City Facilities Master Plan, which was referenced earlier, reviewed the current configuration of City Hall. The space plan reports that over the next 20 years, the city should plan to provide space for approximately 60 employees. City Hall houses city council chambers, administrative services, community services, development services, which includes city code, planning and zoning, engineering and building safety, finance, information and technology, and economic development. Some offices originally designed for one employee are housing multiple employees. Conference and meeting rooms and storage space have been converted to office space. The city is currently holding off adding personnel and services until space is available. Since the number of conference rooms has been reduced from 5 to 2, City Council currently moves to other city facilities when council chambers is being utilized for other public purposes, such as a voting center. The proposed two-story City Hall expansion would add approximately 8,500 square feet. It would include its own building entrance, offices, conference rooms, and restrooms. In summation, here are the highlights of the 4 proposed projects in the bond measure. There is a handout on the back table of this slide, and I will turn it back to Robert to review the financial components of the bond measure.
Thank you, Carrie. If passed in November, the bond measure would result in an increase in secondary property taxes. The financial impact of the bond election will vary from resident to resident based on property values and the amount of bonds issued. The figures on the next few slides have been revised based on updated construction and financial information. The estimated average annual tax rate per $100 of assessed valuation is approximately $1.08. The estimated tax impact over the term of the bonds on residential property would be approximately $131.75 per year on a $100,000 owner-occupied residence that's assessed at a 10% full cash value, or to put it another way, $3,821 total over a 29-year period of time. The average valuation of a home in El Mirage is $86,275 according to the state abstract of the roll. The annual tax on an average home would be about $94 per year. This chart shows the overall composition of El Mirage taxpayers. 64% of city property tax revenues are derived from residential. 36% of city property tax revenues are derived from other categories, such as commercial and agricultural. The other category grew by 2% last year and should continue to increase as the southern industrial area of the city develops. So let's look at commercial. Businesses also pay property tax. The impact of the proposed bond measure on commercial property assessed at 17% of full cash value compared to the lower 10% for residential over the term of the bonds would be $2,050.50 per year, about $59,000 total over a 29-year period of time. The impact of the proposed bond measure on agricultural property, valued at $100,000, assessed at 15% of full cash value over the term of the bonds, is estimated to be $197.75 per year for 29 years, or $5,735. So if you are interested in calculating how the bond will affect your individual residential taxes, you can do that in just a couple of steps. Please note that this portion of the presentation only applies for residential property as we're using the 10% valuation. You'll need a specific number called the limited property value, or LPV, or sometimes just called limited value, from your latest tax statement that you can find on the Maricopa County Treasurer's website. The Maricopa County Treasurer's website is www.treasurer.maricopa.gov. Then you can type that number into the automatic calculator the city has provided online. You can go to www.elmirageaz.gov/bond 2023 in the tab section, How will this bond affect my taxes? If you'd prefer to do the calculation yourself, you can follow the instructions on the handout. So let's take a look at this step by step. This is what your tax statement will look like when you pull it up on the Maricopa County Treasurer's website. A version of it is mailed annually to homeowners, but it's always available online. Step 2 is to find the limited property value for your individual property. In this example, the limited value for 2022 is $141,557. You can see it's circled there in red. One thing to note, limited property value is not the same as the full cash value or market value of your home, and those values are not what is used to calculate your taxes. Only the limited property value, which has statutory restrictions, is utilized for that purpose. Limited property value is used to compute both secondary and primary taxes. It is calculated according to a statutory formula mandated by the Arizona State Legislature and cannot exceed the full cash value. So the final step is the calculation, which you can enter into the automatic calculator we've placed online at the bond website under the tab, How does this bond affect my taxes? It will do the calculation for you and give you the annual estimated increase. You can also download the worksheet that we've mentioned and calculate the annual estimated increase on your own. If you do prefer to do the calculation manually, I'll run you through the worksheet right now. First, you take the limited value. For this example, we'll use that $141,557 that we had before. You calculate 10% of the net assessed valuation by taking the limited value times 0.1. This will give you the net assessed valuation, which for this example becomes $14,156. Next, you'll notice that the tax rate is per $100 of assessed valuation. So you'll need to divide by 100, which will give you a total of $141.56. Now you take that figure of $141.56 times the proposed estimated average annual tax rate for the bond, which is 1.0849. This will give you the estimated annual increase that the proposed bond measure will have on your residential property taxes. For this example, the estimated average annual tax levied would be $153.58. Or you can just plug the number into that calculator that we've done and it will tell you the value. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Carrie. Thank you.
We'll now review the process for the 2023 special bond election to be held November 7th, 2023. As we mentioned earlier, numerous council workshops have been held over the past year on current impacts on services and on long-range planning for growth and expansion of city facilities, and this resulted in the City Council passing Resolution R230406 on April 18, 2023, calling for the special bond election to be held November 7th, 2023. This is a ballot-by-mail election. The Maricopa County Elections Department will mail a ballot to every qualified elector in the city. A completed ballot by mail, including the signed affidavit envelope, must be received at the Maricopa County Recorder's Office no later than 7 p.m. on November 7th, 2023. Postmarks don't count. Therefore, it is recommended that you mail your ballot no later than November 1st. The replacement center voting starts 8 days prior to Election Day. It will be open October 30th and remain open through Election Day at the time shown. Completed ballots may also be dropped off at the replacement center at City Hall in the drop box. At this vote center, voters may request a replacement ballot if you do not have your ballot, provided you have the proper form of ID. The ballot will contain one question with $21.5 million for public safety projects and $20 million for other municipal facilities. A yes vote shall authorize the governing body of the city to issue and sell $41.5 million of general obligation bonds of the city to be repaid with secondary property taxes. A no vote shall not authorize the governing body of the city to issue and sell such bonds for the city. An informational pamphlet, also known as a publicity pamphlet, which explains the bond election in greater detail, will be mailed to each household within the city that contains a registered voter. These will be sent on or before October 3rd, 2023, and will be posted online. Voter registration is handled by the Maricopa County Elections Department, and you may visit beballotready.vote to check your registration status, register to vote, and track your ballot. You can receive text updates on voting by texting JOIN to 628-683. Also, paper voter registration forms are available at City Hall and here at the El Mirage Library. The deadline to register to vote for this special 2023 bond election is October 10th, 2023. So here is the timeline of the election. Informational or publicity pamphlet will be mailed out October 3rd. Voter registration deadline October 10th. We will have one more public informational meeting on October 11th here at the library at 6 p.m. And ballots will be mailed by Maricopa County Elections October 11, and November 7 is Election Day. But remember, this is a special ballot by mail election, as we noted before, and registered voters should plan to mail your ballot by November 1st to be received by November 7th. And again, postmarks don't count. Okay, the final item on our agenda is questions and answers. If you have not already, please submit your questions on the comment cards that we've provided and just bring them up to the front. Please print, especially our email addresses, and we'll be responding via email, so please make that legible. If it's a question directly related to the bond election that we can answer, we will read it and answer it, but if we don't have the answer or we're not able to answer it, we will respond to your question via email. Our city office hours are Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and then as a reminder, our answers must be educational, informative only. by law, city staff cannot advocate for a yes or no vote on the bonds or even tell you our opinion on the bond. And so for that reason, to help ensure that we comply with the statute and remain neutral, we're only taking written questions tonight, no verbal questions. We have incorporated the questions from the last meeting into the video of the June meeting that is online, and then we plan to do the same for this video. We also have copies of those questions that were asked last time in the back on the table, so look through those. And we are just going to take a pause to review the questions, and we'll return in a moment with the questions that we can answer tonight.